guys, welcome back to My Steps to Sobriety, the show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stefan Neff. And today I have got another guest, and I've got CQ with me. CQ is Mike Carrasquillo. Did I pronounce that right? Carrasquillo?
Surprisingly good, man.
That out of a German mouth. Come on. Well, Mike, you have you literally are actually two people. There is the CQ and there is the Mike, and we're going to explore that for the next little wee while because your story is quite unique. So, but first of all, welcome to my show. Thank you so much for coming today. I'm so happy and grateful that you could make the time.
I appreciate it. I'm very excited to have this conversation, and like I said, I'm an open book, and as much fun and great stuff. Like we've gone through some tough stuff, and I'm happy to talk about both.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, indeed, Mike Carrasquillo. So that was how you were born, and that is how you grew up. Where did you grow up?
I'm born and raised New York City, U.S., biggest city in the world, and
I will not hold it against you. Okay.
Well, it was great. I loved being a part of the city. There's such a dynamic energy to it. The city that never sleeps. I grew up in kind of the ghetto, the slums, very poor neighborhood. My mom had me when she was a teenager. Dad wasn't in the picture. So very rough go out of it. But I never really knew, like, this was just my normal. And growing up in the city was amazing to be around all the different cultures. And, one block you're in Koreatown, and the next block you're in the Dominican area. And it was always something new and unique. So it also gave me a lot of opportunities to get into some trouble, but for the most part, it was good.
And that's the great. It's a melting pot, isn't it? And that is such a beautiful thing. It is. I certainly lived in Berlin and I lived in other big towns where it is just so beautiful. You wake up and you go down there and you have a Turkish coffee and a Turkish breakfast there, and then lunchtime you have something else. You go to the Italian, etc. And it's all part and parcel of your life without you actually realizing it. So I missed it a little bit now living in a smaller part of New Zealand, a smaller town here. So no, that's brilliant. But as you say, being in a large town at a time when cell phones were not yet so prevalent and where cameras were not yet there so widely available, you got away probably with a lot of shit. I
got into my fair share, and I got caught for a time when internet and facial recognition and all these things were there. I got caught quite a bit, but every time I got caught, maybe 3 things I got away with. But it's growing up on the streets, really, because my mom worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat, and so I kind of just had a lot of free time to just kind of roam. And back then, video games at home weren't a big thing, and computers at home weren't a big thing, Netflix. So we went out in the street, and we just kind of got into trouble. That's what we did.
True. Trouble is part of being a youngster. Did you end up having to work yourself after school? Did you get work in one shape or the other?
Pretty early on, man. I think my first job came, I think I was about 16, and I just had this thing where, like, I wanted to make my own. Like, I was tired of being poor. I used to steal a lot when I was young because we didn't have. And so, if I wanted that little cake, little candy thing, I had to steal it because I didn't have the money to pay for it, or that toy I had to steal. So when I got to kind of working age, I was about 16, and I worked from like the minute I could, and I had a part-time gig at a bookstore, at a part-time gig at a video game store. In the summers, I worked at a little ice cream place. So like I worked as well as going to school full-time, as much as I could. Yeah.
Same here. I come from poor circumstances, and from the word go, I was working after school to a degree that it was kind of a normal life. It is, you go to school, then you stack wood in some place, or do whatever you do in order to get the money in. And I actually did never realize that other kids don't have it like that.
That's right.
That was just normally, it was just what
Just
you
the way to
did.
do it.
Well, exactly. So, having said that, and at some stage when I was young, when I was still 17, 18, in Germany, we still had the draft. So at that time, military was very much on the cards, and I got mustered basically. But we had the opportunity to either choose military or choose St. John's Ambulance or stuff like that. So I ended up becoming a paramedic in my spare time, instead of being the army. How was the army for you? Was that an attraction, or was that something that you maybe were falling into or being falled into, however you call that? I.e., sometimes you hear stories that kids are in front of a judge and they say,
That's right.
get your shit together in the military or you go to jail. Was that something like that for you?
It does happen. It does happen. For me, to remember, I was, from New York City. I was a senior in high school when 9/11 happened. September 11, 2001 happened. I was a senior in high school. And that was a very pivotal moment for me because prior to that, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do post high school. I knew college really wasn't in the cards for me. Again, growing up poor and inner city kid. I mean, I was smart. I did really great in school, but I had trouble with other people and fights and things like that. But the book stuff I was actually pretty good at, the test taking. But once that happened, this idea of service and joining the military kind of came into my head. It was never a thought really before. I never really knew anyone that served before that. I wasn't like, oh, second generation, third generation soldier and things like you see. And so, when that happened, I was just kind of like, oh, okay, I need to do this. I need to join. I need to fight for my country. I didn't realize there were other countries in the world that hated us. I just assumed, a naive kid, I'm like, yeah, we all get along. I mean, I'm from New York City. It proves we all get along. But I didn't realize the rest of the world doesn't always see it that way. And so literally I finished out that senior year in high school. I signed up right after I graduated. But at that time, there were so many people signing up that they couldn't intake all the numbers all at once. And so I joined what's called the delayed entry program, which basically means I swore in, I did all the paperwork. I was officially accepted by the Army, but it took so I graduated, at the end in 2002, December of 2002. It was about 6 months before they could actually get me into basic training. So January of 2003 is actually when I entered the service. But I would have went in right as soon as I graduated if I could, but I had to wait about 6-7 months. And then, went to basic training in Fort Benning, Georgia, which, being a New York City kid my whole life, never really traveling, that was let me tell you something, that's a big difference going from inner city to Georgia, where, woods and the forest and hot and buggy and all these different things. Was there for a couple months. I went through infantry school. I signed up to join the infantry. They're kind of the, the front line. You're not a cook, you're not a mechanic, you don't really have a job. Your job is to do patrols. Your job is to do escorts. Your job is to do security. You're the frontline fighter. We call it the tip of the spear in the Army. And so I did that job. I right after infantry school, I went to airborne school. So literally my job skills were shoot people and jump out of airplanes. Those are the job skills I had in the military. And I was good at my job. But from there, once I finished all my training, I was stationed overseas in Italy. So, you could end up in North Carolina or Florida, or all these different places. My first duty station as a soldier at 19 years old was Italy. So it's an American base in Italy called Caserma Italy. It's the 173rd Airborne out of Vicenza, Italy, part of the European Task Force. The idea being that all these big military installations are here in the States, obviously, 82nd Airborne, and very big organizations. Well, they needed places around the world. So we have bases in Germany, we have bases in Italy, we have bases in Korea. You need places that if something were to happen in the world, we're kind of already halfway there, because flying, getting everybody ready in the States and then flying them over to God knows where could take 18, 19, 20 hours. Well, if we're in Italy, we were kind of a quick reaction force. We could be given a 2-hour heads up. They can go, hey, it's go time. We have our bags packed already at all times. Within 2 hours, we're on a plane already going to wherever we need to be. So that was kind of the idea. So I ended up there, and then a couple combat deployments after that.
Wow. So airborne school, that is what, 4 months? Is that right?
No, so airborne school is actually even faster now. So when I went through it, it was 3 weeks.
3 weeks, bloody hell.
It's very quick
training.
Very condensed. The idea is the first week was just a lot of the understanding the principles, the ideals, doing a lot of practicing on the ground. The second week, we did a lot of work. It's like wire work. You're hanging wires, learning how to control it and being dropped out of a tower. And then the third week is actually performing the jumps. Well, now, since I've been out, they've actually condensed it to 2 weeks. So now it's even shorter. You get your airborne wings in 2 weeks. It was a very quick training.
Which, of course, can be good and can be effective if you want to put a lot of men through training. Or it can be actually, I don't know. You probably could teach a doctor what to do in 2 months, maybe. That's sure.
They're specialized. Yeah, sure. I mean, honestly, here's the thing, especially when it comes to airborne school specifically, there's not a lot of principles in it. I mean, you jump out of the airplane, hope that the parachute opens, and then just kind of steer it in and learn how to. It's more than anything, the majority of the time is learning how to absorb the impact on the ground, because to understand a military parachute, it's not like skydiving. You don't have a lot of steering. You don't have brakes. The military parachute is designed to deploy a troop and to get him to the ground as fast as humanly possible without killing him. Like, that's the idea, because you have to imagine, if we're jumping into a country, we're invading. They're going to be shooting at us. So the idea is you need to get out of the plane to the ground and actively in the combat as fast as possible. So we don't have brakes. We don't have steering. It literally, you hit the ground. I think it was like 35 miles an hour, 45 miles an hour. That's how fast you hit the ground. Your body is traveling at that speed. So we have to learn to absorb that impact. You learn what's called a PLF, a parachute landing fall. And it's really, it's like getting hit by a car. It's not pleasant, but we practice and practice and practice. So really, more than anything, airborne school is nothing else than just learning how to hit the ground very hard, very fast.
Okay. So what I'm trying to gauge here, so you've got your infantry school, which is what, 2-3 months, 4 months?
Yeah, it's a couple months. Yep.
Couple of months. Then you have got 2 weeks to get your wings. Then you will have basically within your unit training. That is what, 6 months before you get deployed?
It depends on usually, before deployment, we'll do extra training. My specific case was a very worst case scenario, because I joined at 18 and I think I turned 19 as basic training, which is 6 to 8 weeks, then infantry school, which was another 2 months, then airborne school, which is 2 weeks. I got sent to my unit, and within a few weeks, I was in Iraq. As a 19-year-old brand new private that had zero idea, I got connected with my unit as they were deploying and literally had no idea what I was doing. I hadn't trained with these guys. I didn't know anybody's name, and here I am now in combat with these people, relying on them to teach me what the hell I'm doing, which led to a lot of hilarious bad situations. But yeah, no, it wasn't the best case scenario in my specific story. But the idea is you would get to your unit, you'd have months and months and months to train with them and build that cohesive bond, that brotherhood, and not just get immediately dropped into a combat zone at 18, 19 years old.
I mean, that is what your forebears did and what my forebears did. Okay, that was just the way it was. There was no psychological conditioning. There was no, these kind of unit cohesiveness kind of things. The Germans in the Second World War, yes, there were units that were very closely knit, and really you were fighting for your brother and with your brother next to you. But prior to that, the First World War, it was probably not so much. They were just thrown together in willy-nilly kind of systems, sometimes depending upon on the height, you were
Right.
ordered to stand in line, and if you happen to be bigger than the other side, and this group goes there, kind of a thing. So bizarre.
Yeah.
But we've learned more and more the importance of the brotherhood, of being together in a team that works together, and it's that brotherhood for which you take the risks, and it's that brotherhood for which you go out there and are happy to risk life and limb, as you did. So it makes it hard. So you were a smart-ass, cocky New Yorker who had his wings clipped in Georgia, and then you got the little wings as a replacement, and then you went to Iraq. Hello.
Yeah, it was 2003, part of the big airborne jump into Iraq. It was a tough time.
Yeah. You were 2 years. You did 2 combat patrols, didn't combat? How do you call them?
Deployments. Yeah.
Deployments. Thank you. Each one, what? 9 months? 6 months?
Oh man, I wish. So unfortunately, how it happened is when they said that the 173rd was going to jump into Iraq, we were told we were going to jump in. We were going to. It was Bashur, it's the northern part of Iraq. We were going to push down. Establish, get an airport. We're gonna take over an airport, and basically that was gonna create the first base that then they could fly planes in safely, and then we'd get pulled out. They said 3 weeks tops. We spent 15 months.
15 months.
15 months. It was not enjoyable.
Because it was all the start. It was no one knew. They were just making up as they went.
Yeah, a lot of it was we were treading new ground. We were breaking new ground. I was part of. We've built 3 or 4 bases that are now large bases there and whatnot. We built it when it was just sandbags, and so it was a tough year. It was a tough year, that one.
But I mean, the way I understand the Iraq war, initially you went in there, shock and awe and everything, and then you quickly overwhelmed the forces there. So, and then the first year was actually not as bad as far as insurgency was concerned, and as far as guerrilla warfare against the Americans was concerned. Am I right there, or did you experience a different scenario in the area that you were?
Kind of yes and no. And I mean, it really does depend where in the country you were at what specific time, and as far as what level of resistance you received. When the first couple of weeks, Iraq still had a military. They still were following the dictatorship. They were still doing that. Sure. So there was pockets of resistance. But again, we have a superior army, we have a superior air force, and we hammered the hell out of them with rockets and missiles, targeted strikes, and explode. We left them devastated. Like you said, shock and awe. So there wasn't, a ton of resistance, but we definitely had plenty of firefights. The first year was really establishing kind of a foothold in the country and building up what it would be. You're right that more of the insurgency part of it definitely came in towards the end, because I can remember very intense kind of fighting in the very early days with a large portion of just trying to get control and kind of normalcy in the next couple months. And then it was towards the end of our tour there that we started seeing more of like the IEDs, the improvised explosive devices, and more of those kind of pocket resistance fighters and people that were just taking shots and then running, or setting up bombs and running. That was definitely towards the end of that first year, and then obviously more moving forward.
So 15 months in a hot hell, where initially you wouldn't have had many showers, and you would have had more dust baths than a bloody chicken in its coop. So bad. Then you came home. How long did you stay home?
Yes, so we finally got back to Italy, and I'll never forget, as we landed big, pomp and circumstance, welcome home. We're getting on the buses because we actually landed in Germany, or was it Germany or Aviano, Italy. But we had to take a bus back to our base, and as we're getting on the bus and we're rolling out and we're getting closer to the base, I remember one of our leadership stood up and he goes, guys, that was hell. We got through it. Obviously we lost some people and things like that, but for the most part, we did it. And they go, look, you're gonna get 30 days off. You're gonna get 30 days paid vacation. You earned it. Enjoy it. Don't get stupid. Don't whatever. Drink yourselves to death or whatever. But he goes, when you get back, it's back to business because we just found out 1 year from today we're deploying again. So you're gonna get a month off, and then we're gonna go hard training for 10 months.
Cool.
And then they gave us another month off right before the deployment.
Cool.
So it was the bookends of kind of a 30-day break. I mean, 10 months of intense training, where we even actually went to Germany. We were in Germany for about 2 months training in Hohenfeld and Grafenwehr. And then another 30-day off right before the deployment. And then we headed to Afghanistan.
Damn. So it was not even going back into the same theater of war. It was, why don't we mix you up a little bit? Come on. So you just learned a few words Iraqi? Let's do Afghanistan. Yes.
That's right.
Now that makes not sense. But hey, this is how the forces are rolling. Fair call.
Yeah.
Bloody hell. Afghanistan.
We were considered. So we were considered kind of I hate to talk like this because it sounds very cocky and very, but we were considered an elite fighting force. Wherever they put us, we gave them hell. We did the job. No matter the nastiest, dirtiest, worst odds, we always got the job done. Where they were sending in large brigades and divisions and region, like hundreds and hundreds of troops, we're going in 30 guys and getting the job done. So we quickly gained a reputation for getting put into the worst places and coming out through hell. There's a really, really great documentary called Restrepo about the guys that I served with. It was the deployment after the one I got injured in. But you can see just the conditions our guys were always put in and the insurmountable odds we were put up against, and just the stubbornness to fight back with hell. And my unit, the 173rd, which I proudly wear on my sleeve here, has the most living Medal of Honor, the highest honor you can possibly have. We have the most living Medal of Honor recipients in military history, and the majority of them coming from the last 10 years or so. So these are men that fight tooth and nail against all odds, and so really put in some of the worst places in the world, and with limited resources, limited support, and we get the job done.
Did you know about that reputation of your unit, or was that reputation building up as essentially you were part of it?
Honestly, I was kind of part of it because the unit has a history that goes back to Vietnam. They were the last unit to do a full-on airborne assault was in Vietnam. So, years later, then to jump into Iraq in 2003. So there was a history of being this, excellent airborne, infantry unit. But really, we've laid our stamp in history from 2003 on. The jump into Iraq, the deployments in 2005. It really was every other year we were getting deployed. So it was 2003, 2005, 2007, 2008, 2009. They kept getting sent out. I know guys that were still there that were on their 7th, 8th deployment. So it really is, they put those boys through hell. It really did. I wanted to be there. I wanted to continue. I wanted to continue serving. It wasn't my choice to give it up. I had that choice taken away from me, obviously. On my second tour. But yeah, had I not gotten injured, who knows how many deployments I'd have under my belt at this point.
I guess it is very hard to imagine if you have never been part of such a brotherhood, of such a team where there is no question about the integrity of the man next to you. And you know absolutely everything about him because you spend so many nights in bloody atrocious conditions and talking. So it is, there you are here, and a pride comes over you, and a hey, go, come get some. Let's do that, and whatever it is out there.
Yeah.
No, and that's I understand that 100%. Having said that, how many of the guys got injured around you? Because when you're out there, the tip of the spear, well, a lot of people want to have a part of you, preferably your head on a stick, actually. But if that doesn't work, then blood and a few pounds of flesh will do. So how many guys did end up getting injured and killed?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I couldn't even tell you the number. And fortunately, we lost a lot of guys. Lost a lot of guys in numerous, engagements over across the years that we were there. Even worse is that sometimes it wasn't even combat. We lost a handful of guys in a helicopter crash when it was nobody's fault. It was nobody's fault. Sometimes these things happen. We lost guys to accidents. We lost guys in roadside bombs. We lost guys getting injured and killed in action, in combat. Too many. The answer is too many. But I lost a lot of good friends. And as far as the number of guys injured was luckily not as high as it could have been. We had so many close calls. We had vehicles that were blown up that people were able to walk away from. Number of guys, I have a good friend of mine who's been shot twice and was able to kind of just shrug it off. And so I was probably, especially that year, the 2005 deployment, I was probably the most critically injured guy to survive, if not in the top 2 or 3, because I'd been shot 5 times and pretty critically injured. But yeah, you really did hit on the head though about the brotherhood. These are guys that you hate each other. Really, after being stuck in these conditions, you start to hate each other. Like you really, but it's almost this motivation of like, in spite of you, I'm going to survive. Like I'm going to live in spite of you. I hate you so much. But you live for these guys, you bleed for these guys. I always joke, the reason I got shot is because we were ambushed and one of the guys got shot first, and he was shot in the open. He dropped down. He had gotten shot twice through the leg, couldn't get up, couldn't walk, and they were still shooting at him. And I saw it, and I knew that if I didn't do something, they were going to kill him. And so I ran out there and grabbed him, and I dragged him back. In the process, I got shot, and it was a whole thing. But I can honestly say, out of not just my team, not just my squad, not just my platoon, not just my company, but probably in the entire brigade of hundreds of men, I hated that guy the worst. Like me and this guy did not get along. We fundamentally did not like each other. But in that moment, it didn't matter. I didn't see, like I knew who it was. It's not like, I didn't know. I didn't save him without knowing. I knew exactly who it was. He's a member of my own team. We had 4-man teams. And so I knew exactly who it was, but it didn't matter who it was, is the point. And I know that if I had been shot, he'd have done the same for me. That's just the way it works. You don't think, you don't hesitate, you act. And but I do wish it would have been anybody else besides him. Like if I was gonna, get shot and spend, years in the hospital and this and all that, I really wish it would have been for somebody I liked. If I had a choice.
Maybe that is part of the journey, I guess.
I think so.
Where you had to think about the energies of the cosmos or whoever is out there and giving you an extra challenge, like the little cherry on the top of the cake.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. That's it. Me and this guy, and you would think that like, this was that moment that, because if this was a movie, that's the moment where they became lifelong friends. That's the moment that, nope, Nope.
Nope.
I
He's
can
still an
honestly
asshole.
tell
That's
you.
right.
I can honestly tell you, since that moment, since that day, I dragged my, after everything that happened, I got airlifted out and they put me under to do these surgeries and things. When I woke up in the main hospital of Afghanistan, I woke up and I opened my eyes and I looked straight across the room. He was in the bed facing me. He was in the opposite bed of the room. And he kind of gave me one of these, that's it. That's we haven't talked since then. Like we haven't shared a word because it would be phony to be like, we're friends now. We weren't friends before it. I mean, we were brothers. We were line, battle hard and whatnot. But we're not going to pretend that like we like each other all of a sudden. We never got along. So that was a great sign of respect for him to be like, hey, glad we both made it out of there, and that's that. And we left it there. And it's been what, 15? Yeah, because 2005, 15 years. And
what did hit you? You were shot at. Was that what 7.62 by 39? So an AK round.
That's right. It was actually an RPK, so it's 7.62, and they were armor piercing rounds. So real nasty stuff.
That is, so for those of you who are not shooters out there, who don't know rifles, these are fast-moving, quite decent mass bullets. And when they impact with meat, then the meat typically loses. And what happens with such velocity shots is that there is a temporary cavity. So whilst the bullet might look like the end of your finger, this size about however happens in the body, you're talking about halves about the size. Now 1/2 of that through a leg, bloody hell, make that 5. Come on, man, you're pushing it. You really had to go for 5 CQ, honestly.
I'm a glutton for punishment. What can I say?
You did.
Oh yeah, it's true. I took. I'm not a medic, any sort of medic, but part of the infantry, we would have we take these classes on kind of medical stuff because God forbid I need to render aid to somebody until a medic can get to them. So IV, splint, tourniquet, things like that. But I'll always remember they're like, look, entry holes very small, exit holes very large. And I was very fortunate that of the 5 shots, so I actually got shot once right there in the bicep, didn't exit. So luckily, I was very fortunate. And again, I hate to sound like I'm bragging. I was in really good shape. We worked out all the time, hustled up and down mountains all the time. I was in great shape. And as I was carrying the guy, I was kind of flexing, right? Because I was dragging this guy. And that's when the bullet hit me. So it hit me at kind of the thickest part of the meat. And while I'm flexing, and muscle is denser than fat. And so it slowed the bullet enough that when it hit the bone, completely obliterated the bone. I mean, I had nothing left of bone, but it didn't exit. It actually stopped the bullet. But the unfortunate part was I had gotten hit through almost like in your underarm or armpit, right? And it went up, hit my clavicle, and then came out my back, which big hole. And the other 2, I had gotten shot actually in the heart, believe it or not. I actually got shot in the heart and in the gut. Luckily, my armor had stopped the rounds from penetrating, but the force, the impact actually shattered all my ribs, collapsed my lung, caused a crazy amount of internal bleeding. And then I had the one that actually went through my hand and piece took off my the good finger. So
I was about to say, of all the fingers, you had to lose that one.
Yeah, it is. It's easier to flick people off without them realizing now, though. So
True.
But yeah, so I was pretty critically wounded, and can honestly say I was bleeding to death as I lay there, and just very fortunate that I had. I mean, we had such an incredibly good. I mean, to understand really, we had. There was 2 helicopters that had came down on 2 different mountain peaks. There was only maybe 8 of us in my helicopter. So for the first guy to get injured almost immediately, then me to get injured right after that, you're down to 6 guys. And for them to stave off an ambush where they had the high ground They were entrenched. They were better positioned. Obviously, luckily we had great air support. It's a testament to how well we were trained, how well we were battle hardened, that my 6 guys on my mountainside could keep us alive while birds did what they did. The other team on the other hillside did what they had to do. I had 2 guys rendering aid. So really that 6-man, squad becomes a 4-man because I had 2 guys rendering aid on me because I was bleeding to death. And strapping tourniquets on and packing the wounds, things. The only reason I'm alive today is because of the quick acting of my team. The fact that we had, luckily we had a flight medic with us. So as soon as I was able to get back to the Black Hawk, we actually had a trauma surgeon basically on the plane already rendering aid to me and properly putting on tourniquets and, saved my arm, saved my life. So yeah, very fortunate.
Again, for those of you out there, you sort of see in the films, someone gets shot in the shoulder and they shake it off and walk, and then 10 seconds later they're doing heroic things. Bullshit, absolute bullshit. The shoulder is one of the dodgiest things to get a bullet in. Yeah. It is full of nerves, full of blood vessels. These blood vessels, they bleed like stink. So the injury that you have described is pretty, it's one of the worst injuries that you probably can have because it is so difficult to get to. For me as a doctor, you've got all these bloody shattered bones in the way, and somewhere in that deep mess, there is an artery that makes you bleed to death in 10 minutes. Hey, great. Give me more of that. Yeah. So whoever was with you there, wow, these boys definitely rescued your life, no doubt.
Absolutely. I, as I was laying there, and again, I had actually gotten shot, I think, twice before I realized it. Huh. And then it was the ones that hit me in the armor that it knocked me off my feet because it's like getting hit by a car. It's like hitting, a bullet's hitting you at whatever, faster than light speed, and it's stopping at your chest. Like you get blown off your feet. And so my brain was telling me, get up, and my body just wasn't. And it was then that I realized, oh my God, I think I'm hit. And my first thought is, oh my God, I'm paralyzed. Cause like my feet didn't want to move. My arms didn't want to move. It wasn't, I've been in plenty of firefights. I've had plenty of, been rocked through explosions and things like that. So I knew I wasn't like, oh my God, I'm afraid. And I'm like, it should, like, my body literally was like, no, you're not going anywhere. It went into shock. It went into complete shock. And as I'm laying there, there's like, I couldn't really do anything. And one of the guys came and started performing aid. He's like, hey, you're hit, you're bleeding. And all I could think is, I was like, where am I hit? Where am I hit? Because I couldn't, honestly, I didn't really feel anything. Like my adrenaline was going and my heart was pumping, but I couldn't feel anything. And he starts patting me down. He's like, there's blood everywhere. And I was like, oh, that's not good. And as I'm laying there, and he's just putting the things on me and the bandages, and I'm like, okay, move your feet. If I can move my feet, at least I know I'm not, paralyzed, completely paralyzed. And soon my feet started to move again. I'm like, oh my God, okay, cool. Move your hands, And I could tell that something was wrong with I was able to move my arms, but not really. And so I knew something was pretty wrong. And it was that part where as like the adrenaline starting to calm down. And by the way, there's a firefight happening. I mean, there are bullets, explosions, rockets, grenades happening. And these guys are covering me. At one point, somebody screamed grenade, and like the guy that was rendering aid on me actually threw his body over me to protect me. So like, and I'm like, at this point, I'm like, all right, I already banged up, man. Protect yourself. But he was, in his mind, he wasn't going to let anything more happen to me at that point. And so he threw his body over me, blew up, and then he went right back to work. Finally, I felt, because I'm laying flat on my back, but I felt as if there was like a giant rock right under my shoulder blade. It just felt like you were laying down and you're laying on this really pointy rock. And you're like, it wasn't painful, just super uncomfortable. And I'm like, I think something's wrong. I'm telling him, like, get me off this rock. And he's like, you're flat on your back. There's nothing there. I said, then there's something wrong. And so he had slid his hand inside my vest in the back and immediately yanked it out. And it was just, drenched with blood. And so he's like, oh my God, there's a hole. And I was like, well, like, what kind of hole? And he just kind of balls up his fist and he's like,
yeah,
and
that's
I'm
my
like,
point.
that's not good. That's
Yeah.
not good. And it was at that point that I could start to feel like I was like, if you're a battery, like I could feel I was draining.
Yeah.
Like and in my head, I'm like, oh my God, I'm bleeding to death. I could literally feel like just my energy, just everything I felt. I was starting to feel tired. And I was like, and I told him, I'm like, I'm bleeding to death. I'm like, you've got to fill that hole. You've got to fill that hole. And so we had these things called curlicks, these little bandages pre-wrapped, and I popped it open. I was like, dude, don't even unwrap it. Just shove it in there. And he just, that was the first time I felt something. He jammed it in that hole and I screamed because it was not good. It was not a good feeling. But he jammed it, he wrapped it up, and the next thing I know, the other guy shows up and, they're like, all right, we called the birds back in, and, the area was too hot. There was too many bullets and things. They couldn't risk it. So they were going to land way downhill. And he goes, don't worry, we're going to drag you to the, I was like, oh, hell no, you're not. I mean, are you crazy? Like, we're on the side of this dirty, rocky, mountainous. If you drag me down this mountain, I will die before we get to that helicopter. And they're like, no, you're crazy. We can't. I was like, pick me up. Like, my legs were starting to move. I'm like, I can run. I was like, I can't do anything else. I couldn't move my arms at all, but I'm like, I can run. I can move my legs. And they're like, no. I said, listen, if I die, it's your fault. And after that, they're like, oh shit. And so they picked me up, one arm over each guy's shoulder. And I mean, we just hauled ass. We hauled ass down the mountain, and they got me to the bird. And after that, it was, it's a long road to recovery after that. But my guys did what they had to do. They saved my life and went back to work and took care of the enemy. Yeah.
For them, that's easy because that's what you do. That's what they've been trained for. That's the easy part. You throw yourself back into your work, and you just the next firefight, and the next firefight, and then the next patrol, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
For you, that stopped. For you, you had defined yourself as a badass. You were a badass on the street. Then you went through your training in record time. Then you became a real badass on the battlefield. You were an active man. You defined yourself by how much you can probably push in the gym, how many sets of how many weights you were doing.
It's because like you knew me back then. What the hell, man? I was a cocky son of a bitch. We had to infantry, and then even more than infantry, airborne infantry. Yeah. We had to have this swagger. You had to have this. I'm the biggest dick in the room. I'm the cockiest of the cockiest. I was the guy that was going to the dance club and just be like, you, let's go. And just like, you had to have that. You had to. And then I think to be in a combat environment, you have to believe you're bulletproof. You have
Absolutely.
to. It's different if you're a cook, a mechanic, a satellite repairman. Nothing against those jobs. They're important jobs. But to be a combat specialty, to be infantry, to be rangers, snipers, you have to have this thought of like, I'm impenetrable, I'm untouchable. And when those bad things happen, when you see guys injured, when you see guys killed, you have to have a thick skin about it. You have to shrug it off. It's not a good feeling, and it's something that you'll end up dealing with years later. But in that moment, you can't ever let the fear of, oh my God, somebody's trying to kill me at all times. You can't let that get into your head. Like, you do have to have the small part that says, like, today's the day you could die, because that keeps you sharp. It keeps you from getting complacent. But at the same time, you can never let that fear of like, oh my God, I'm literally in the worst place in the world with everyone hating me and wanting me to die, because you can't do your job then.
So true. So true. You identify yourself with this action man figure. How it sounds bizarre, and I'm trying to make a little bit lighter here, but ultimately this is a persona that you develop, that you believe in, that you cultivate. That is because this persona keeps you alive. the moment you move away from that persona, you actually increase your chances of not making it back. So no two ways around that. And you believe it, and you live it, and you breathe it. And then suddenly a bullet comes, and you find yourself, I assume, back in Germany. That was pretty much the first port of call after being wounded severely. How long were you in Germany? How long were you in the...
So from the date of my injury, I got, put on the helicopter. You go straight back to your little outpost where they performed emergency surgery to save my life. Yeah. From there, I was medically induced in a coma, ended up at Bagram, which is the main base in Afghanistan. Yeah. There for about a day or two, waiting for a flight to Germany. Go back, ended up in Landstuhl in Germany at the regional medical center there. Was there for about 5, 6, 7 days. Really what they told me was that, because typically that's a point where you could, in theory, be patched up, sent back, patched up, sent back to your unit, sent back to Italy, wherever. I was told right out the gate, like, there's nothing we can do for you here. We're going to stabilize your body. We're going to put you in a full body cast, stabilize you. We need to send you back to the States because we can't do anything for you here. And so I was only there for about 5, 6 days, and then put on a transport back to the States to Washington, D.C., where Walter Reed Army Medical Center is the main hospital where I spent the next 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah.
Fuck me.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was, it was a tough time. It's about 6 days in the ICU because actually, funny story, I died when I got there. My heart just stopped. And I'll tell you,
you arrogant, soddy bitch. Come on, they do all this work and then you just die.
And I was like, fuck this. I give up. I'm done. So I was in the ICU for about 6 days. Then I spent 6 months on the trauma ward, on the orthopedic ward, where I endured about 40-something-ish surgeries to kind of piece me back together. Died again during that 6 months, brought me back. Was too stubborn to die. And then honestly, I should have been in the hospital longer, but what happened was at that time we were getting so many wounded back every single day that it got to a critical point where they said, like, if you're ambulatory, if you can walk, there was a hotel next to the hospital, and they would put you in that hotel. That way you just can walk back and forth for your appointments and surgeries.
So that was around 2006, 2007?
2006, yeah.
Yeah, mm-hmm. So that was Fallujah kicking off around about that time. So yes, you guys got hammered out there.
Oh yeah. So I, in total, I was in the hospital for about 2 years before I was medically retired. But 6 months of that was as an inpatient in the hospital, and then about 1.5 years of recovery and surgeries and physical therapy, occupational therapy, things like that, outside, just living literally steps outside of the hospital.
I mean, your left arm was obliterated from a bone point of view. Your right shoulder was in little pieces. And here you are moving your arms around. That is a testament to A, your perseverance, and B, to the skills of the team that worked at you.
Absolutely. I give the majority of the credit to the doctors, nurses, therapists, staff at the hospital. When I first got to the hospital, and I don't recommend this, but an Army doctor, they don't mince words. So I said, "Hey, doc, like, what am I looking at? Like, how bad am I?" And he looked at my chart, he looked at me, and he goes, "Well, there's a 80% chance you're going to lose one of your arms, and a 60% chance you're going to lose both your arms." And I was just like, "Oh, shit. Okay, cool. Thanks." Usually bedside manner means like, you're going to be great, man. We got you. We were like, no, they were like, this is what we're looking at. Best case scenario. So I definitely did defeat the odds and beat the odds, and had really, honestly, just amazing surgeons, amazing treatments. There were a few experimental surgeries that they basically told me, like, look, this could help or it could do nothing. We're not really sure. We're just kind of winging it because my injuries were pretty severe. And I was very fortunate. Actually, one of my treatments got put in a medical textbook because of just how groundbreaking it was. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, it was. was a wild time
Fuck.
for sure.
Well, you're making light of it now, and you speak very highly of the team, and it's all beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I don't believe for a second that you were in that frame of mind when you were actually there.
Not at all. Not at all. That was probably the darkest time at my life at that point, because little did I know I had a nice little mental break surprise coming up down the road. But at that moment, that was, you kind of hit the nail on the head when you said that I was this cocky, I mean, the biggest just in the world at that moment. And in the blink of an eye, I couldn't scratch my nose. I couldn't wipe my ass. I couldn't do anything. In fact, in those 6 months, I spent so much time in the bed that my legs atrophied. I had no lower body injuries, but I had to relearn how to walk. That's how long I stayed kind of just completely cast up, and my legs just like completely atrophied, and I had to relearn to walk. I was in a really bad place, physically, obviously, but also the mental toll to all of a sudden you can't, like, I had to call for help if my nose itched. And to go from, I think I was 21 at the time, 22 at the time, the best physical specimen on earth, to this baby, this incapable baby that could just cry and whine, and that was it. That's all I could do. And to have people have to come clean me. I couldn't get up to use the toilet. And so had to have people clean me. It was the most humiliating and also humbling and sobering experiences of my life at that point. And so it was a really hard time. I was lucky in the sense that I had an experience where I was going through the woe is me. My life is over. I'm ruined. I'm going to be this crippled being for the rest of my life, and no one's going to love me, and all these, like, why am I even here? What, I was a big video game player. I still am. And I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to play video games again. Like, what kind of life am I going to live? And, I would sit there and just ruminate and just be just every day. And one day this guy comes into my room, and he's in a wheelchair. He's in a motorized wheelchair. He had lost both his legs, lost one arm, and the one arm that was left only had like pincers for fingers. And that's how he moved his little wheelchair. And this motorized wheelchair was completely pimped out. I'm talking spinner rims on the wheels, flags, boombox stickers, like very flashy. And this guy would go room to room and just talk and make people laugh. And like to the point where he would have to be forcibly removed because people were bursting their stitches. Like they were laughing so hard that they would burst stitches, and like the doctors would get pissed. But he would just do that every day. He would just go around, and it struck me that, like, who the fuck do I think I am? That here's a guy who obviously has it way worse. Even if I lost both my arms, I still got my legs, and like it just obviously had it worse than me, and he could still smile and laugh and bring laughter and just have this positive energy about him. And like, I was like, I refused to really be that like woe is me anymore, because I'm like, this guy's living, even though he has every reason to hate life. He has every reason to be miserable and curse people out and demand special treatment. And no, he did everything for himself, and he so independent, and he was so full of life and love. And that really got me through that part of the physical recovery. And that gave me this kind of attitude of like, you know what, I'm going to beat the odds. I'm going to, they told me I should do 1 hour of therapy a day, and I would go 3 times for an hour each time. So like I just developed this I don't know. I kind of tackled it the way I did my training, where I'm just like, well, I'm going to be the best. I'm going to be the best at healing. I'm going to be the best at physical therapy. I'm just like, that became this I don't know, this mantra, this method in my head. You know, I was literally competing with the guy on my left and the guy on my right in the hospital bed. Like I'm going to walk faster than you. I'm gonna move my fingers sooner than you, and all these things like became part of it. You know, and then in the mental stuff that came a little later and was a little trickier, but yeah, during the physical stuff at first was very difficult to kind of accept. And then just once I kind of put my mind that I was going to, you know, like if they ended up amputating my arms, oh, so be it. And I'll get the arms and I'll learn how to use them and I'll, you know, do what I have to do. But I just, yeah, you know, I remember having that switch flip. Just I'm gonna do what I can, whatever I have control over. Like that's what I'm gonna focus on and go at it 110%.
Whatever I've got control over. What a beautiful, beautiful caveat. That's right. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference.
That's, yeah,
So
I love
true.
that.
So true. Wow. What did you do 2 years when you couldn't use your hands for boredom? I would have been out of my fucking mind.
Yeah.
What did you do? How did you
A lot
keep
of
yourself
TV.
sane? TV.
a lot of TV, really. A lot of TV. I was fortunate that I would say after the first 6 months, you know, when I finally made the move from living in the hospital to out of the hospital, I was starting to regain a lot of the use of my hand. They weren't like I have today, where I'm pretty good. That was very limited, my range of motion, my strength, my dexterity, things like that. But I could interact with certain things. So really, it was the first 4 months that were the most difficult. Where the first month was in and out of like, you know, a morphine coma. Like I was so drugged up from all the pain I was in and out of surgery. I don't really even remember the first month really, but I remember months 2 through 4 were pretty boring. A lot of TV, a lot of TV. And yeah, and then just talking to people I remember just, you know, going to the cafeteria and just sitting around. We used to play this game, Who's Got It Worse? And we would start comparing scars, comparing injuries, well, that guy lost my leg. Well, I lost my hand. Well, that guy had his ear blown off. And it was like, yeah, so it's, you know, it was the same things we would do in combat, where have these ridiculous conversations and who would you rather, you know, is it fuck, marry, kill? And you know, if you had to do this, would you? And all these things. We just did that in the hospital and kind of turned dark with, you know, who had the coolest prosthetic and you know, who had the gnarliest scar, things like that. So
that's cool. That's cool. That is the gallows humor. That is exactly. And it's only doctors can understand that, or nurses. We all have got the same kind of dark tinge to our humor, where other people just look around and think, who the hell are you? What did you just say?
Yeah. I tell people, I'm like, you know, you go through some super traumatic thing in your life, and really the only 2 things you can do is laugh or cry. Like that's really what it boils down to. And so I think people in our line of work lean more towards laughing about it.
Agreed. 100% agreed. And the more sorted the humor, the better, in all fairness. At least that. Because you see so much shit. You see so much trauma and suffering that sometimes you want to be so out there in your humor that oh my God, an enormous sane person is just shaking his or her head. Absolutely. And it is what it is. That is our survival. That is our way of coping. And sometimes you need exactly that. And now I live by that very man. God, where did money come from around that time? Was veterans looking after you, or?
For luckily, you know, the military does a really good job in taking care of its wounded veterans. We're very fortunate for that. So while I was still going through this recovery, I was still considered an active duty soldier. So I was getting my pay as if I was on the line working.
Oh, nice.
Because you're still in the military. Now, on top of that, when you go through a traumatic injury like this, we have almost like life insurance policies. So if you, God forbid, you were to die, like you have a document that says like, you know, give my money to my family and they'll get like a $500,000 or something like that. It's crazy amount of money. Obviously, never worth a life. But for my injuries, there were actually there's a formula that says depending on the level of your injury, you get an X amount of dollar as a sorry, like sucks that you got blown up or whatever. But I think at the time, I think I got like $75,000 for my injuries, and then again collected my regular pay up until 2007 when I officially medically retired. And then from that point on, I collected retirement at a reduced rate of what my active duty pay is. It's based on your grade, your time in service, all the different, you know, your injuries and things like that. And then obviously as a disabled veteran, you know, I collect money, you know, for my disability as well. So we're fortunate that, you know, it paid the bills. No one's living in the lap of luxury for sure. But it definitely, you know, paid the bills for a good while.
I mean, that was a time, 2005, 2006, 2007, whilst shell shock was known for at least 90 years, whilst the impact of battle and combat and extreme situations on the mind was accepted, but it was still not really so well managed, was it? We would love to say, oh yeah, it's the 2000s, we're living in a modern world and we understand and we deal with it. Bullshit, absolute bullshit. Certainly from a medical point of view, unfortunately, that is not true. There were lessons learned from various conflicts, but they were not necessarily interchanged and were not necessarily implemented into the active management. For example, I was talking yesterday about in an interview with someone, and I brought up the Falkland War, where the British were fighting the Argentines. Short war in the 80s. But a lot of trauma, a lot of the English were very, there were a lot of damage was done to the people, to the soldiers, as well as mentally. And some of the soldiers were repatriated via aeroplane. So within 48 hours, they were back in the UK. And some of the other guys, they ended up on the ship, traveling slowly back. And the amount of PTSD in the two groups was staggering, that those guys who could actually debrief and deal with the whole shit in their own time over a period of 2-3 weeks that it took to get back to the UK on a ship. That was such a valuable thing. Yet lessons like that, I don't think, were so much accepted by any leadership, military leadership around the world. So was there a budding kind of emotional support system there around about that time? Or was there, again, did people have to make it up as they went and rely on the goodwill of that guy on with his spinning wheels and things like that?
Yeah. No, I mean, man, you're so dialed in. Most people don't understand. But yeah, in that time, 2003, 2004, 2005, even up to 2007, the mental wounds, the invisible wounds, the invisible scars that we like to call them, really weren't understood at the depth that they are today. And I can remember, you know, guys cracking, guys kind of having those breaks, and we just like, hey man, suck it up, drive on, like you're fine, you know, drink some water, you'll be good. And like you said, there are, you know, history lessons. And I remember we'd come back from trainings or come back from deployments and you had to fill out documents like, do you want to kill yourself? And you're like, no. Like, And it was almost ridiculous in the nature of it. Like, do you think about killing other people? And you're like, no. And honestly, we were even kind of told by our leadership, like, you fucking answer no to everything on that damn list. Like, we were kind of like briefed on, like, you're like, you don't fucking say something's wrong. You know, we handle that internally, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And so it wasn't understood. And I remember in Walter Reed, and when I was there, you know, guys were having tough times, and guys were abusing the pills they were on, and guys were mixing alcohol with the pills they were on. And we had guys die in the hotel because, you know, there wasn't really good leadership at that time. There was, like, again, the guys were just flooding in, and you know, one or two commanders watching over everybody. It's impossible. Hundreds of people. And so you know, you get guys that were on their painkillers and start drinking and, you know, dealing with the stuff that they're dealing with, and they die, like, in the hotel. And so, but even then, the focus, as it should have been, the focus was so much on the physical being, because it's easy. It's easy to do an X-ray. It's easy to do a CAT scan or a CT scan and see what's wrong and fix it. And so that's where the focus was. And I remember with me, all the focus was on my physical being, to the point that, like, I remember they're like, oh, go to this office at 9 a.m. And I go to the office, and they're like, here, sign this. I'm like, okay, cool. What's this? She goes, you're now a civilian. Like, those are your retirement papers. I was like, wait, what? Like, I wasn't even, like, given, you know, and again, it's much better now. It's a much better system now. But at that time, it was such a Wild West atmosphere where they were just trying to figure it out. And I literally remember just signing a paper, and they're like, all right, get your shit and you're good. You're done. You go home and collect your retirement. You're like, it's like, wait a minute, I don't think I'm ready to be back in the civilian. Like, I'm not ready for this. And for me personally, and I know everybody's struggles with PTSD and kind of the mental stuff, it's such a spectrum. Because even at that time, going through what I went through, I still didn't understand PTSD. And for years I didn't. For me, it's what the media will talk about, and like these homicidal maniacs that now go on killing sprees, and these guys who get blackout drunk or beat their wives. Like, that's PTSD. And that is a part of the spectrum. That is absolutely one side of the spectrum. And I saw it. I saw guys that I served with who didn't get injured, who just came back and couldn't handle, and would get blackout drunk and put their fist through walls and get into fights and things like that. And I would go, that's PTSD. Because that's all I knew. And for years I struggled. And honestly, it started to get worse and worse and worse. I was pulling away from people. I was isolating. I was depressed. I was having nightmares. I was that guy doing patrols I bought this house in the woods in the middle of nowhere, and like, nearest neighbor was like a mile away, and I'm still doing 3 a.m. patrols in my house, as if to expect attacks at any moment. But to me, that was all normal.
And literally patrols. You were literally. And why did you say 3 o'clock? Just out of intrigue.
Just in the middle of the night, like it would be.
Did you wake up 3 o'clock? Did you wake up 3 o'clock, like clockwork? And
sometimes yes. Sometimes it was, I just couldn't sleep. I would I'd be up still at 3 a.m. just walking around and doing things, checking the door that I locked it for the 600th time. You know, making sure, you know, everything. Just these things that to me were normal. They were. This was just, you know, and the excuses are, it's just part of my training. I'm just being safe. I'm you know, I'm just doing all the things.
Exactly. You build this construct in your mind, isn't it? You sort of you normalize it. Hey, it's I watch my six. That is normal. That's good practice, etc. So absolutely. God, the fucking 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, like clockwork. For me, it was 3, rarely 4 o'clock all the time. For many months, years, 4 o'clock, bing, wide awake. And you remember absolutely every bloody wrong thing that you did in your life at 4 o'clock in the morning.
It all plays like a horrible movie right in front of your eyes. And so it really, I didn't know. And I pulled myself, and luckily the world was starting to get better. in understanding these things and programs, and for wounded veterans, these great programs are starting to be developed. But I was so far removed. I isolate, again, coming from a kid from New York City, I now bought a house in the Pennsylvania wilderness and just out in the mountains, like literally like bears and turkeys and deer running around my property. And I just wanted to be left alone and say, I'm fine. I don't have PTSD. I'm fine. I just don't like to talk to people. I don't want to look at people. I don't want them to look at me. I don't want to leave my house. There were weeks, and at this point I was married with my wife, who, God bless her, she's saved my life so many times. But there were weeks that I wouldn't step foot out my house. I just couldn't. I couldn't find the will to engage the outside world. I built this cocoon, this safety bubble around myself, and I couldn't get out of it. And she, if not for my wife, I'd be dead. They'd find my body at some point, because she'd buy the food and she'd cook for me and make sure that I was taking a shower and just taking care of myself, because I couldn't do it for myself at that time. And I still couldn't see that I needed help. I still couldn't see it. And I was just very, very fortunate that the right people came into my life at the right time, and right organizations got involved, that I could start to realize I needed help. And took one guy really just sitting me down and going like, you need help, and explaining to me why, and he goes, you have PTSD? I'm like, no, I don't. Do you have nightmares? Yeah, of course I have nightmares. I saw dead bodies and I saw things that, do you have sleepless nights? Yeah. Do you? No, you did. Yeah. Like the checklist goes out, and he's like, all that's PTSD. Like that's all symptoms of PTSD. And then going like, oh, okay, maybe I need help.
Well, the last time I looked, people are not hiking through the Pennsylvania mountains to try to find people like you. I mean, I think the army is still not going this far. So how the hell did they find you? Or how, again, let me guess, what did your wife get up to find those sources?
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. I was very fortunate. So I guess while I was in the hospital, there was an organization called Wounded Warrior Project, and they kind of capture people's information as they're going through, and they would just like, they have all these programs. I didn't want anything to do with them, but one of the things they would do is they would call you on your birthday and just say like, hey man, happy birthday, how's it going, whatever. And so one day they called me, and my wife happened to be sitting next to me, and they're like, hey, happy birthday, how's it going, how you doing? I'm like, I'm fine. And she's like, and they're like, and she's, and and they're like, oh, if you're interested, we do all these different events. And then I'm like, nah, I'm good. And she's, and then I'm like, what? And she's like, well, ask them what they do. And so I was like, well, okay, what kind of stuff are you doing? Like, well, what are you into? And I was like, oh, one of the things I'm into is football. Love football. And American football. And she, they're like, oh, who's your big fan? I'm like, well, I'm from New York. I love the Giants. That's my team. And they're like, hey, well, we actually have we get a suite every once in a while at the games, and you get to, watch the game and eat and just kind of get together with people. And I was like, oh, I grew up a poor kid. Like I never actually even been to a game. Like I'd watched it on TV, but I'd never actually been to a game, let alone like not just in the stadium, but in a suite. It's a box, private, food, catered, drinks and things. And part of it in my head was like, the idea of being in a crowd was terrifying. But like, okay, if we're in a box, it's kind of contained and I get to watch the game. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I guess I could do that. And then it was like 2 hours from my house, but what else was I doing? And so I went to a game, and I was like, I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't really do anything, but I enjoyed it and whatnot. And so I just once in a while started doing more things like that. And kind of the more I got out, the more I started to realize, I wasn't alone. That was kind of a big thing, was feeling alone and realizing other people are struggling the same way I was. And then a couple events later, I met the guy that kind of changed my life, Ed, who became my mentor, and he could see I was struggling. And he was the first guy that really kind of got in my face about it. Because everybody's, oh, you good? You okay? Yeah, you're like, it's like, you're good, right? You're okay? And like, oh yeah, no, I'm fine. And he was the first guy that came up to me. He's like, man, you don't look good. like, you don't look good. And I was like, no, I'm fine. He's like, no, man, you like, you had bags in your eyes. He's like, you don't look like you're sleeping. I'm like, yeah, who sleeps? Like, as in the movies, people sleep. Nobody really does that. Like, no, you should be sleeping. And he had a service dog, which is like that kind of broke through the shell, because I'm like, it was a fucking cute dog and such a good dog and so well behaved. And I loved playing with the dog, and he kind of used that against me. It was my weakness. Yeah, he kind of talked me into realizing that I needed some help, and I wasn't doing good. And with his advice, I started speaking more and opening up more and getting therapy and counseling and seeing the docs and the shrinks that I should be seeing. And he just kind of took me under his wing, and he saw that I was
What's that
hurt.
about?
Yeah.
Which time? What time was it? I mean, you were 2007, right about that.
Right. So I met Ed. It was like the end of 2009, just about 2010. So it was about 3 years, give or take, from when I had left the service. And let me tell you, really just in the nick of time, because I never, you never joke, obviously, about taking your own life and things like that. But there was, and I never had that thought. I'll be honest, I never had the thought that I wanted to end my life, but I was little by little starting to feel that, like, what kind of life was I living? And I really feel like I was on the train to that thought. I was on the path to that thought, because I was starting to feel like I'm not doing anything. I'm not worth anything. I'm just wasting people's energy. Like, my wife is taking care of me. I'm just wasting her life. And so while I never did have that thought, I really do feel that had I not gotten together with Ed, and he had not become my mentor and my friend, and the programs that I found, I really feel like I was ever so closely getting to that point of having that as a real thought, that what am I even doing here? Why should I be here? And so I was very fortunate to never get to that point. But yeah, and at that point, my life really changed. And it wasn't, definitely not an overnight thing. Mental health and things like that, it's not a simple fix. But once I took on that challenge, the same way I took on my physical recovery, that, okay, I'm going to be the best at mental health. I'm going to be the guy that talks about his problems the most and is as honest and open as he can be. And once I kind of took that methodology and placed it towards my mental health, then that's, over years, that's when I began to really see a growth.
Whilst I can't wait that COVID is finished and that I can actually meet you one day in person, you are really an excuse. I don't really want to see you. I want to see your wife. I want to see that bloody Mother Teresa. This I don't know what being has got the patience to live with you, from cocky bastard to poor me, another one, to now the new you. Yeah, that is it. When did you meet her? When did you? And what's her name? Come on, what's her name?
No, you're right. Jenny. Not short for Jennifer. Actually, Jenny. Yeah, no, I was very fortunate. I met her while I was in the hospital recovering. Funny enough, it's so me the way I met her, in that it was my first time leaving going out into public. Yeah. My doctors told me that I could go for a short walk, around the premises to get some exercise and everything. So I jumped in a cab and went to the mall, which was miles and miles away. And I went to a CD store. It was back when CDs were a thing. So I went to a CD store to get some music. And when I walked in, I saw her right away. And she was gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous woman. And I think the only reason I had the confidence at that point to talk to her is because I was on a lot of painkillers. And so I was high out of my mind I don't think I would have ever walked up to her and talked to her. Maybe when I was like at my physical peak, back when I had the stuff, I might have took a shot. But in my state, where I literally, at that point, I had one arm in a cast, one arm in a sling, I had went from 200 pounds of solid muscle. I was about 125 of just bones and just, I looked like death. And so I just walked over to her, and to this day, my opening line was, "So do you come here often?" That was kind of that was the opening gambit to that conversation, and it was
She
not
must
well
have just
received.
looked at you and thought, what?
Pretty much. So no, she's been my rock through it all. And kind of like you said, she's seen me. I mean, at my worst. She jokes about the only reason she even kind of gave me the time of day is because I was like a wounded puppy dog, and she felt bad for me, and that's why she even gave me the time of day to talk to me. And so she, once we started seeing each other and emailing and calling, and she would visit me in the hospital, and she would just sit there for hours and listen to me and watch and spend time with me. And she saw me through like the absolute worst. Within months, I married her because I knew, I dated plenty of women in my years, and she was just the first person that was she had the biggest heart I'd ever met, and was only concerned about me. And I'll be honest, I kind of treated her badly in the beginning. I again was going through that really dark period where I didn't have value of myself. And so I really questioned, why was she even spending time with me? Like, what's wrong with you that you're choosing to spend time with me? And I was very angry, obviously, about a lot of different things. So I never treated her bad. Like, I never said bad things or anything, but I was very aloof about the whole thing. Like, I didn't take it. I could tell she was just interested in me because, like, oh, here's this, this hero and this wounded veteran. And so I never felt like she really was into me. And it just, all these psychological things I was doing to myself. And finally, after a couple weeks, couple months, she sat me down. She goes, "Look, I really like you, but you're a dick. And if you really want to be with me, if you really want this to be something, I need you to meet me halfway." Like I wouldn't, like, she would visit me, but I would never go visit her. Like, I would never go to her job. I would never call her on the phone. If we were going to talk, she was going to call me. And it was me. It was definitely my fault. This was all me just being in my own head, being a dick and being, bummed on myself. But at that moment, I realized she was such a great girl and that I definitely didn't want to lose her. And so I made a bunch of changes, personal changes, and I was like, all right, I'll call you and I'll visit you and your family can meet me and things like her friends thought she was making me up. They didn't believe I existed because, I wouldn't call her, I wouldn't visit her, I wouldn't do anything. And so, yeah, I became more of a part of her life. And a couple months later, we're married, and we've been together now. My God, we got married in 2006, so we've been together 15-ish years and married about 14 years, and we have a 3-year-old now. So
Well,
it's been
she's
a
a
wild
glutton for
ride.
punishment. First she has got you as a puppy dog. Then she goes with you to the Pennsylvanian wilderness.
Yep.
Unless she likes turkeys really a lot,
Not
then
really.
that speaks volumes for her feelings
She's a
to
beach
you.
girl. She's a beach girl. So to go to the middle of Pennsylvania, far from any water or sand, yeah,
Yeah.
I've put her through so much hell. I owe her so much in my life, and like all I want to do is make her happy. And yeah, I'm very lucky, very, very, very lucky.
And I guess she must have seen that. She must have seen the potential in you, and she must have seen through all the bravado, through all the bullshit facade there, she must have seen something in you that no one else could see, or that you didn't let anyone else see.
Yeah, I didn't see it in myself either. So yeah, you're right.
True. So that was around about 2010 now, ballpark figure.
Mm-hmm.
But you started healing. You started getting your shit together, but you were still not really doing so much there. The guy I'm talking to now is a very different guy than 2010. No two ways around it.
Absolutely.
What happened in between? how the hell did the next years change for you to be CQ, the CQ that we in a short while get to know what the hell you're up to now. But what happened?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, a lot of little things that equaled a lot of big things, if that makes sense. At that time, I started getting out more, participating more in life, wanting to be involved more, seeing, getting therapy, taking medication, and really trying to get out. A big change came when I saw how good Ed was able to talk about his trauma and talk about things, and he'd seen some really bad things, and I couldn't understood how he could just share that with anybody. Like I was just starting to share it with like shrinks and things like that, but like he would just eat a guy off the street and then start talking about it. I couldn't. He was an enigma to me, like this puzzle I had to figure out. And he told me one day that it's all this stuff that we carry, this emotional baggage. It's like physical baggage. It's a weight that you carry, and the more that you can talk about it and share it with other people, you're literally handing them that bag and saying, "Hey, can you help me carry this?" And that takes the weight off of you. And I called bullshit, first of all. Like that's ridiculous. But
it sounds like corny bullshit and mumbo jumbo, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Some psychosomatic nonsense. But I said, okay, I'll call your bluff. I call bullshit. I'll call your bluff. I'm going to start opening up. And I started very slowly, very little things. And fuck me, he was right. Like the more I would open up and the more I would share, the less that burden became, the lighter that weight became. And so I just started taking more opportunities to share my story and to talk and connect with other guys. And then I got to a point within a year or two where I definitely not like Ed, but I was getting closer where I started to see those signs in other people. I would go to an event, a gathering of wounded veterans, and I could see that guy that was sitting against the wall and, back against the wall and then facing it. And I would just go up to them and I would start talking like, "Hey man, everything good? Like you're good." Let's say, and I would start connecting and in healing, or I shouldn't say that I was healing them, but in connecting with them, it was almost like healing a part of myself and like seeing a piece of me there and trying to heal them to heal me. And it just, I got to a pretty good place. And so this is about 2012. And in that time, I realized that all this I was doing was great. And I got to travel the world and I started doing these different events and I started picking up hobbies. I learned to play golf and I learned to play racquetball and I got my scuba diving license and I started kind of tackling the world, and every opportunity that would come to me, I would say yes. Like, hey, we're taking a bunch of veterans literally to go get their scuba diving license. Yes, I'll do it. And hey, we're giving out, free golf lessons. Like, yes, I'll do it. I ended up in Israel because of part of a wounded veteran exchange program. But they're like, hey, we're going to take some veterans and they're coming to the States and we're going to send some of ours over there. I was like, yes. Next thing I know, I'm in Israel. Which, funny enough, I was in Tel Aviv, Israel, and the guy goes, "Do you see this road right here?" Yeah. Because if you get on this road and drive 8 hours in that direction, you're in Baghdad, Iraq. And that was I was like, wow, I'm way too close. Way too close. But, I got to do more of these things, and it really all was part of that healing process. And then, and like I said, in 2012, I got to this point where I realized the piece that was missing was kind of what we talked about earlier, that I'd always worked. I'd always been this hardworking guy, and that was a piece of me that was missing. And so I had this kind of epiphany that like, maybe I should go back to work. Like yes, I'm this disabled veteran and yes, I'm this whatever, but I could still contribute. I could still do things. So we don't have to live paycheck to paycheck of my retirement. Like maybe I can go out and make money. And obviously I did the research first, like would I lose my benefits if I go back to work? And I sorted all that out. And yes, you lose like, Social Security and things like that. But, depending on the job you take, you make more money than what you're losing technically. So I took a lot of time to figure out the right job would be for me. And I found a very great program that, again, I had no really post high school education. My military education involved bullets and explosions and jumping out of airplanes. So career opportunities didn't seem very wide for me. But I found a great program that took disabled veterans and taught them a career in the IT field and learning, stuff in IT and software development and things like that. And so I took a chance. I took a chance and I had to relocate. And God bless my wife for being so okay with things. But we really relocated to Maryland, and I took part in this training program. It was a 3-year intensive training program, but they said, like, if you complete it, you're guaranteed a job in the federal government, and lots of benefits and things like that. And so 2013 I took that job, and I'm still doing it today. But that was kind of a big piece of the puzzle, was finding something that I could contribute, I can do. Like, I'm part of the solution, right? I'm part of the populace. I'm working. And that helped me also at a time in a recommendation of Ed. I got a service dog. And that helped me a large portion in the social aspect. I was still having social anxiety. I was still having trouble getting into the community and doing these things. So getting that service dog was a piece of that, being part of that. And then, more pieces of the puzzle started falling into place when, there was this peer mentoring program where they were like, hey, we'll partner you with other guys that are struggling and you guys can work together. And so I got to train as, like, I got certified as a peer mentor, like, how to engage and how to talk, and learning the things that I was doing just kind of naturally and following the example of Ed, but learning how to do it properly and doing it, with an actual training method behind it. And then that rolled into peer support groups. I created I first joined a few peer support groups and learning how to be part of a group and find a family that's kind of like you and the disabled veteran part of it. And eventually I created one, and it got super successful. I did that for 3 years, and then created a second one in a different area, and that's been rolling well. So, like, all these little pieces started, equaling the greater change in me and being, and honestly getting to a point in my life where I feel like I'm better now as a person than I was before my injury. So not just getting back to that point, but surpassing it by a large margin. And so, again, doing all that stuff. And then finally, I'm like, okay, now I've been giving of myself in my work and giving of myself in my family and giving of myself in these peer support groups and these mentoring ships. Then then it became a thing of like, okay, now I need to do something for myself. Like, what do I want to do? And I found this program that taught veterans stand-up comedy. And I think, I've always been a fan of comedy. I've always loved comedy. I've always loved making people laugh. It's always been a part of who I was, and I lost it for a long time. I was always the class clown. In combat, I was the one making silly faces and posing. Like, I have pictures that I could show you that are just ridiculous because I love making people laugh. And then to lose that for so long and being this dark, gloomy, struggling guy, I thought, wow, what a great opportunity. And really, if I'm honest, the reason I took the stand-up comedy class is because, still struggling with social anxiety, I felt like this was a challenge. This was a thing to literally put myself in the spotlight, have people look at me, and me the challenge to make them laugh. And in my head, I was like, okay, I'm going to do the program. There's a little graduation show you do, and then I'm going to cross that off the bucket list. I did that and move on. But in doing the class and in doing the training and doing the performance, I fell in love with it. I really had a lot of fun. I enjoyed the challenge of writing material, performing it, making people laugh and entertaining people, taking some of the struggles that I've gone through and controlling the narrative and finding the funny in it and making people laugh with that. That was such a great healing thing that I stayed with it. I started doing open mics, and I got to perform in, like, the DC Improv and Gotham in New York City and all these places. I performed comedy for former President Jimmy Carter and his wife. And I got to do that in this private little venue. And, like, it just, again, saying yes to those opportunities. And so And then eventually comedy kind of led me to podcasting and doing a radio show. So it's all connected. It's all one big bowl of spaghetti where everything's connected to everything. But yeah, it's a lot of little things that created a bigger change.
Wow, wow. So you have gone through such a journey, and Jenny was there on your side. What support did she get? Where did she draw her support, her sanity from?
That's a great question. For so long, I didn't even think why or how. She's one of 9 children. She's the second oldest. So she has a very large family. And they are an incredible source of support for her. They literally, no matter where they are in the world or the country, they talk daily. I mean, text message chains and Facebook chains, and even before Facebook was really big thing, there was phone calls every day, every couple hours. So she's got a great support system with her family, and I think she's at her best when she's helping others. And so, me being the project for so long, she kind of put all of herself into it, and then finding finding what she needed, what was her healing was she got into running. And when I was going through a lot of my changes and starting, because again, her focus was so much on keeping me alive and keeping me sane for so long that she didn't get to do things for herself. And finally, when I started to get into a better place, realizing, okay, now she needs to take care of herself too. And so she found a passion for running. She had never really done it before. And then next thing you know, she's running 5Ks and 10Ks and half marathons. And now she has a collection of medals and trophies and things that she's very proud of. So it's very physically fit, and using, her escape is the gym, is working out, being physically fit, and of course a glass of wine. Gotta have a glass of wine at the end of the day. But yeah, no, she's now again, we're in such a good place because we've developed friendships, and that support. She's working full time now, so she has a job she loves and she's passionate about, work colleagues and friends and neighbors, and we built a social circle and these things that for years we didn't have. For years, it was just me and her, and this uphill battle. And my family's never really been involved, and her family has always lived far away, and so it really was just us. And we've together we've come a long way, and it hasn't been easy. There have been a lot of rough patches, and we've learned how to support each other. Over the years, we've developed almost kind of like code words. So if when I'm having a down day, when I'm having a day that I just rolling out of bed, I know like, oh, this is not going to be good. She'll look at me and she's like, hey, are you feeling blue? And I'll have to like self check and go like, yeah, I think I'm real blue right now. And so, she'll ask, well, what can I do? And sometimes it's just me. I have to go like, maybe I just need a hug. Like, just give me some physical contact or some just, whatever. And then some days it's just like, I appreciate it. I'm good. I just need space. I just need time to process what I'm going through. Because sometimes we have to allow ourselves that. We have to check in and allow ourselves. We're not always going to be happy. The media, Facebook generate, like, it's all fake. Like, you have to be honest with yourself, and sometimes you're just not going to have a good day. My wife will joke. She's like, "Oh, you're menstruating," like she'll play it up.
Ouch.
Yeah, so she'll poke fun because she knows, again, as a comedian, that's what we do. We rib each other. And so, but she's always my champion. She's always my support. When I tell her like I'm and one part of it too is sometimes you cross the line, you snap when you shouldn't have, and as I have to say, like, I'm sorry, look, I apologize. What I said yesterday, I was just not in a good place, and that's my bad. And I have to own up to that. I have to own up to that as the man. I have to own up to my own when I know I crossed the line. But she's great, and we, she's been there for me for so long that yeah, I owe it to her to be the best husband I can be, the best father I can be, the best friend I can be. So yeah,
that makes 2 of us. That's exactly the same attitude I've got towards the gem of Lisa, that is my wife, and that has been there for me when she should have really walked away, or when I would have expected any sane person to walk away.
Absolutely.
So cheers to the women out there and to the partners out there, regardless of chromosomal status, who are not giving up on nut jobs like CQ and me. So you guys rock. That's all I can say.
Absolutely.
and hopefully both CQ and I are examples of the fact that you can turn around, and that even the darkest darkness can still grow a glimmer of hope, can still grow a glimmer of light. And that if you've just found a little glimmer, some oxygen and the right nutrition, and suddenly a little flame bursts out, and suddenly that flame turns into a big fire that then gives birth to a phoenix, and out comes this new guy, this new girl, for that matter.
New person, absolutely.
Exactly, and there's this new person coming out, and in your case, it's the stand-up comedian. You would have never believed it in a million years had I told you at the age of 20, one day you're gonna rock as a comedian. You would have said, "Yeah, right, bullshit."
No way.
Yeah, exactly. You have no way to know what happens to you. And life is so dynamic. There is nothing guaranteed. There is no longer the situation that you get into a job and you work 50 years and then you get your golden watch and then you've got your picket fence at home. Nah. Life is constantly changing, and we have to adapt and change and overcome. That is our duty as successful human beings, and that applies for partnerships, for relationships, for everything, really, absolutely everything. So it is the key to you succeeding out there is to start loving yourself. The moment that CQ found out that there is actually something to be proud of again, and to look in the mirror and truly hand on heart say, I can do that, I can make that, and let's do X. That is the moment when you start succeeding. And that is the moment when suddenly people turn around and think, yes, you have been a smartass, you have been an asshole, I couldn't stand you, but look what you're doing now. Wow, what the hell? Yeah. And guys, such a transformation is sexy. Okay, it doesn't matter if half an arm is hanging off, and in your case, no. That is to show to the outside world your emotions and what you have overcome. Makes you a very unique person. Makes you one of the few people that others actually look truly up to, because it is not so common that people develop the balls and the backbone to do that. It takes a man and a woman to really hit rock bottom, and then to wallow a bit in a misery and have the vomit on the t-shirt, and then slowly but surely develop the new foundations. And whatever then happens on these foundations, yes, it's as good a sign, because every man is different, every woman is different. We all find passion and life and joy in surroundings that we didn't think possible. Would I have believed that I sit here talking to fantastic guests out there in the hope that we can be there to infuse and to change the lives of those that listen to us? I would have looked at you as if you lost your marbles. But here I am, and I'm finding a fulfillment that I couldn't have imagined a few years ago. So guys, don't give up. Don't give up. Look at CQ. if he can do it, come on, honestly.
Anyone can do it.
Amen to that, he says. Oh, CQ, wow. So you're still very involved now. So you're doing your stand-up comedy. You're a radio host. Tell us about your radio show, because people want to hear more about you. I mean, you've opened up this so much. Tell me where can people listen and tune in and talk bullshit with you.
Absolutely. Well, first, there's gotta have the merchandising, right? So this is the show, Pop Culture Warrior.
Yeah.
So the show is Pop Culture Warrior. We're live. We do a live show Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern US, and we do it for about 2 hours. Most times, it's just me talking about the latest news in movies, TV, video games, comic book, toys. Just fun stuff. There's so much darkness in the world today. There's so much drama in the world today. I wanted to do a show that was fun to talk about. We can be silly. We can, talk about Marvel superhero movies and things like that, and just have a good time. And occasionally we'll have guests. Like, I actually think like the next month and a half, I'm booked solid with guests. Directors, actors, writers, artists, anybody that's in the entertainment industry. Like I find it fascinating. I want to talk about what is it like on set? How do you get your creation, your ideas for making a video game? All these things that behind the scenes that we don't get to see in the entertainment industry. You can find us on Facebook, Mixer, Twitter, YouTube, pretty much anywhere you see video and audio, as well as once the show's over, it gets pushed out as a podcast. So if you just want to hear the audio, you can find us wherever podcasts are found. The easiest way to find us is if you search WTF Nation Radio. That's the kind of the suite of shows, the family of shows. So I'm the Tuesday night show, but we have, Monday edition, Sergeant's Time, Kicking It with Kaz, a bunch of other shows. But yeah, so search WTF Nation Radio. The show has its own Facebook page, facebook.com/popculturewarrior. And that's just a super engaging place where, we talk nerdy stuff. I post stuff that's fun, do little challenges. I do exclusive videos. If you like the Facebook page, every 250 likes I get on the page, I do a big mystery box giveaway. So just all you got to do is like the page. You're randomly entered to win. We sent out our first big winner package, and he loved it. It had autographed memorabilia and toys and comic books and all types of fun stuff. So yeah, it's just a lot of fun. I enjoy it. I look forward to having the conversation. I have a co-host, and like I said, we have a phone number, so we take live callers. If you want to call in live to the show, I want to hear your opinions. And like I said, the Facebook page, just kind of a way to keep the show going, right? Like it's your instant access to me at all times and what I'm thinking about or what I'm excited about in pop culture. And then the show is just alive. It's just this box, me talking to your face, and it's a lot of fun. I try to make it fun, and it's an escape for the normal world and normal life. So yeah, that's my pitch. That's my pitch to you.
Oh, it's brilliant. Well, I'll make sure that I'm in the draw for the 250 there. No, brilliant, man. Brilliant. CQ, I mean, you humbled me. Your journey has been unique, yet there are so many others out there, so many veterans out there. And it's brilliant to hear that you're part of that community that is helping others, because that is certainly a community that is so much needed out there. And I think at least there is now a certain structure in place and a better acceptance in place as far as soldiers is concerned. And we are talking now United States. I do not know what the equivalent in let's say, Pakistan is, or in Russia, or in South America. I doubt very much that the same lessons have been learned. I think they will be decades behind, just based upon the nature that they have not had to deal with thousands of injured soldiers and had to learn the hard lessons. So it's maybe a good thing that happened to the United States, that you guys got involved in two wars, at least from the management of mental health issues of soldiers. Having said that, guys out there, if you look at PTSD, PTSD is a weird thing that raises its ugly head in response to situations where you felt that your life was threatened. I'm no soldier. I was at the receiving end of gang warfare or gang. They wanted to have fun, yeah, and I was the victim of their fun. Well, thank you very much. The PTSD that arose from that wasn't very pretty. Rape, sexual abuse can lead to PTSD. We know that major road traffic accidents, if you're a victim of that, chances 1 in 3 that you develop PTSD. And it can hide itself like a freaking chameleon. So if you recognize yourself in some of the symptoms that CQ has mentioned, the hypervigilance, the constantly being on edge, the constantly looking around, to a certain degree, that is good because you want to be aware of your environment, just Absolutely. Not to that high pitch that PTSD guys are there. You want to have a nice, calm, relaxed. You want to know what's going on around you, okay? Sure. But you certainly don't want to be going about like nuts, and that's what PTSD is. The 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, waking up. No guys, unless your neighbor plays trombone at 4 o'clock in the morning regularly, you probably shouldn't wake up at 4 o'clock, and you certainly shouldn't wake up and then remember everything that you ever did wrong. I mean, you remember 32 years ago when you talked really funny to that girl and you suddenly feel it in a visceral moment, as if someone hits you into the gut, that kind of feeling, that's not normal, okay? So it's these kind of things. So if you recognize yourself, maybe time to explore it a bit, maybe time to figure out, is there someone to talk to? And I guess maybe a good starting point might be your family physician, your GP, someone who is actually on your side. He or she is your wingman. And most people don't really realize that and click onto that. They know psychologists. They know what support networks are there in your neck of the woods. And only because you're not a veteran doesn't mean to say that there are actually not some very clever people out there who have been in your shoes. However unique your circumstances are, guys, it is probably not that you have invented the wheel. Okay, it has been done before. So, and whatever shit people have gone through, unfortunately, there will be other people who have gone through actually similar shit. And it's as believable as it may seem to you. Please, 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 you're not alone in your darkness. You're not alone in what has occurred to you. And you're not alone in your suffering. But you have good choices. I think that is what CQ and I are all about, to make you guys realize out there, you have got a choice to rephrase the question. Not why me, but what is happening, for example, and what can I do about it? So just this, it doesn't change the circumstances, but it changes maybe the way you look at things and how you go about things and how you go about choosing what you do next. It's all these little choices, and it's your life. Okay, you can't do anything about the past that has happened. But you can very much change the way you look right now at this moment in time and what you plan to do in the future. So CQ, I mean, thank you so much. We spent bloody 2 hours. Crikey. Guys, you probably have fallen asleep and are waking up back now. We're still talking. So sorry for that, guys. But it is what it is. It is, CQ, you're a great guy. And I am so grateful and happy that I could make this connection with you and that you came here to talk to me. I'm so humbled. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate this. Thank you for doing what you're doing. Obviously, my show is silliness. My show is childishness. What you're doing, I really believe in it. I love it. This is more what I do, day to day. I love talking about these issues because I feel like if you can shine a light on the boogeyman, it kind of goes away. It makes it weak. It shrinks it down. So I really appreciate what you're doing. I hope that people really get something out of this and that they can have something to take away and share their own drama. Reach out to me. I'll talk to anybody that wants to talk about their drama. I'm telling you, I'll one up you every time. You think you got it bad. But no, thank you. This has been absolutely fantastic. I love it. Anytime you want me back, I'd love to talk more. So this was great.
I might just have to pick you up on that, and I might just have to get to know this Jenny person a bit better there. I mean, that would be a show in its own right to just say, okay, CQ, now you come on, go for a walk. Jenny, we two talk.
Oh yeah, I'm sure the stories she could tell you, man. I'm telling you.
Cool. Guys, look after yourselves out there and make the choice to go towards a better life. It's waiting out there. It's just up to you to do that. Look after yourself, guys. Bye.